Hello and welcome. Today we're talking with the founder of Amba Products, so someone very close to me, obviously, because he is also my father, Andrew Manidis. So a little bit, not too excited about doing an interview, huh?
Not really. I mean, I normally get shut down if I have anything to say. But I'm happy to talk to you, Peter. It's not often we talk. So
No, not especially not about.
I'm surprised I'm surprised you're happy to let me talk to you about the subject. You're normally lecturing me about the subject.
No, it's very difficult to get you to actually, be the face of the company a little bit. I mean, considering you started it out of a bedroom of the guest room of your, of the house, like the fabled Apples and Amazons and whatnot. They talk about the garage office. You were above the garage office at one point. So let's take it back to that. Obviously you came to the United States. Well, we came to the United States in 1992, but you weren't working for Amba at that point. So you want to talk a little bit about that transition and, what was it like to move? Back then we didn't have telecommunicate, instant WhatsApp chats and video chats. It was going like, it was pretty different traveling internationally, especially moving out of where you've been your whole life. So, how was that like? I mean, to pick up and move.
I think for me it was a lot easier than it was for my family. Certainly my wife. I mean, had to uproot her away from her family. It was not easy, and to move to a new country where you're away from family and friends is not that easy. But I think we settled in pretty well. Fortunately, we all spoke the same language, and I think the more important thing was that the kids liked their schools. Initially we had planned to only be here for 3 years to try and help these guys out with the problems they were having with this product that I had developed in South Africa. So, we ended up staying longer than we thought because everyone really enjoyed staying here. I think the years was a nice change for us. And, although we had family back home, we used to go back every year and we were able to see them. But, that business, I was in that business for some time and then basically left that and went on my own. And that was a nice change because I didn't have any partners. I didn't have any boss other than my wife. But, we ended up having a very successful little that woodbroking business. And I did that for a while. The only problem was, the feeling was that I wasn't really I just had too much spare time, and I was playing golf with my buddy Dennis Pams, and I think Karen thought that I should probably be doing a little bit more. Well, probably work at that stage. I'd been working for 30 years already, and I think she discounted that. But so that's basically how we got to this point where I was quite comfortable trading plywood from South America and play with my stamp collection, as she would say. And then, this whole subject of heated towel racks cropped up. And I mean, it wasn't the first time, because when we first arrived here, I had gone looking for heated towel racks because, we thought that we needed them because we had the comfort of having them in South Africa. And the ones that were available here were hugely expensive. That was ridiculous. I mean, they were imported from the UK, and they were, and in South Africa, in terms of unbelievably expensive. You'd like buy a car for a heated towel rack. But we ended up buying one from Sharp Image, which I really hated. I mean, it was always too hot. It was always in the way, and so that basically, in the back of my mind, I had that issue with heated towel racks, and I felt that there was something lacking. And so, I mean, that's basically, that was the first time I actually even thought about heated towel racks. But
so some years after moving, how long after you were here?
We had been here. We got here in 94, so I mean, we ended up, and this was probably, almost 10 years later when we started this company. But I stopped doing the packaging thing in 2001, and I was doing the wood trading for about 3 or 4 years, and we started doing this. Unfortunately, I was doing the wood trading because we weren't that successful with the heated towel racks to begin with. I mean, funny enough, I was thinking about that. One of the reasons, we did this was because the guy who was making them in South Africa, who was this friend of mine who Corin bumped into at a dinner, he wanted to know what I was doing. And Corin said, I think he needs to do a little more. And he called me and he had sent me this information about his company. And in this information, he listed himself as the bullshit artist, which I thought, oh my goodness, this is quite interesting. And he gave me this.
Literally, that's what he had listed on the thing.
That was his title. And he had been a marketing guy, so that, he thought it was quite funny. But I should have taken it at face value. He gave me this long story about having done market research in the US, and we were going to sell millions of towel warmers overnight, and it was going to be a piece of cake. But we realized very quickly after we lost a whole lot of money in the first year, and then even more in the second year, that it wasn't that simple, and that people in America knew very little about heated towel racks. So that was a rude awakening. I suddenly had to start focusing on the fact that I'd lost a whole lot of money, and we needed to get this thing moving in the right direction. It was, as I say, a rude awakening.
Yeah, so you mentioned some of the challenges when you started off. Obviously, it's a totally different landscape. 20 years is a long time in terms of, industry standards, technology, even things like e-commerce, wasn't a thing when we even started. So, I mean, thinking back to, the early, you've mentioned a couple things, cash flow, sales and stuff do you remember any particular problems or really tough issues that you faced in those first, the first maybe 5 years specifically that you can remember that stand out to you?
Peter, I mean, the thing that really we woke up to was the fact that, most people in America had experienced heated towel racks in Europe. They thought they'd experienced heated towel racks in Europe. Problem was that all the houses in Europe had central heating. So they had radiators in every single room in the house.
So you're saying about the fact that it's something that Americans don't really understand because they have central air. Or
I mean, whenever you meet someone at a trade show or something like that, someone who had traveled, he'd say, I've seen those things in the hotels in Europe. The problem is that in hotels in Europe, they have a towel rack in every single room, and they just happen to have one in the bathroom, and they put a towel on the radiator, which is heating the room. So, in fact, everybody in Europe really has a heated towel rack in their bathroom, and they're used to it. And so, and it's part of the system. Whereas here, you don't, you have air being blown into the room to heat the room, and you don't necessarily have to have a towel rack to heat any room in the house, right? So that was a huge awakening for me. I mean, you look. I mean, I think it still stands out that people can have, and we talk about the fact that we want to provide heated towel racks for everyone in America because we think it's a great thing to have. It's not only a luxury. I mean, it's something that, when you get used to having a dry towel, it's a luxury, right? So anyway,
so what it's like is that the U.S. wasn't set up for basically this whole new category because it was something that was essentially built into the way houses are built in Europe. So as I said, there's a radiator, you have the central heating system that pumps all the water. So here it was not a matter of, this is not only an option. I mean, people wouldn't even visualize it because, you would say in Europe, oh, you throw your towel over the radiator. Here, there's no real equivalent to that. It's not what you don't put your towel over an air vent. I mean, I guess you could, but it probably wouldn't be very effective.
Exactly. Right? Exactly right. So, I mean, for us, as I said, it was a real awakening because we actually had to educate the people about heated towel racks. From the beginning, I mean, people didn't know anything about it. I mean, if you consider today, 20 years later, which is ridiculous, we're probably only getting to the numbers that they had told us that we were going to sell from day
20
one.
Years ago.
So, but I mean, it has been a long haul, and I think we're getting there. I'm very confident that things will grow. I mean, I think this sector will grow exponentially now that people are getting, the word is getting around. I mean, people are, getting used to it, and they're telling their friends, and they show their people, they take their people through their bathroom, and they say, "Oh, you know what a heated towel rack is? It's a wake up kind of thing, I mean, it's an essential, that's, and I say, it's funny, most of our friends who basically bought heated towel racks, I mean, they always comment about how they don't know how they lived without a heated towel rack.
It's something that people don't, it's hard to have demand for something if people don't know that it's even an option.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. So,
some of the issues we had in the early days was the fact that, they sent us all these heated towel racks from South Africa, and they knew nothing about, how American homes were built. So, we had to redesign these things to begin with. So that was a bit of a setback. And then, we were importing, we had things like exchange rates that we had to worry about. I mean, when we had, and then we had obviously duties. I mean, a couple of years ago, we started, in fact, in the beginning, most of our stuff was pretty high. The prices were pretty high, if you remember, when we were only importing from the Italians and the South Africans. And so to make it more affordable, we started buying from the Chinese, and the product quality has always been great. And the prices were fantastic, which made it more affordable. The prices we were selling at in the beginning were way out of reach for, just the general public. And now, we really sell towel racks across the board, and it's far more affordable for people to buy these things.
It sounds like accessibility and part of that process is for bringing a wider range, I guess, would be, as you said, looking at designing the products that work for the American market, pricing it so it worked for the American markets. Those are obviously two big challenges you had right off the bat. So now, speaking about how, obviously you say you had the word of mouth is great, that once people have it in their house, they experience it, they love it, they can't live without it. So what, in the early days, starting off, how did you try to get the word out there? What was the, obviously you were a very small team. How do you find that you got the word out there? What was the strategy, I guess, initially?
Well, I think initially, we were convinced that, the right way to go would be to try and sell to hotel groups. And basically the hotel groups were very cost conscious, and they weren't very interested. Because of this whole issue of, people seeing these things in hotels in Europe, people thought, oh, you should be putting them in hotels over here. But in Europe, as I say, they were heaters. They weren't towel racks. So, the people over here knew that. The hotel people knew that, and they weren't going to install a whole lot of heated towel racks if they didn't have to. So, for the first 6 months to a year, we really spent a lot of effort. We had friend, as Dan, it was connected in the hotel industry, and he saw a lot of these hotel people, and we just didn't make any headway at all in the hotel industry. So then we decided to move into showrooms where we could actually put in displays so we could actually show people what these things were. And so that was our strategy moving forward. We would try and get showrooms and people in showrooms to show our product to customers. People who are going in and buying all sorts of other items for their bathroom, they would see these heated towel racks in the bathroom, and that became our strategy moving forward. And that was obviously before the internet took hold, and people started buying things online. Because now I think, a lot of our business is done online, through people like, Bull and Ferguson, and online would be, Wayfair and Home Depot and all these, a lot of companies online, which makes it much easier to get product to market. So it's made our business a lot easier. And I would think that, we still do a lot of showroom business, and we have many, many showrooms that handle our product. And it's taken a long time. I think, what we've done, we've achieved a lot of our growth through these showrooms because people see, the product, and we've been doing it a long time. I would say that we're probably in about 1,000 to 1,500 showrooms in North America, which is pretty substantial.
About 2,600 now.
Oh, is it 2,600? Well, Peter, I mean, I can't remember everything, but I'm getting a bit
I mean, I update the showroom map on the website, so
2,600. I mean, that's a big achievement, Peter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's huge. But I mean, that's not something that.
I mean, it hasn't.
No, absolutely not.
It's been a slog. Anyway, so I mean, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, the landscape has changed a lot since then, and I mean, you can really, the manpower needed to actually go and canvas individual showrooms, it's such a different experience than dealing with digital. It's you don't really think about the logistics involved with stuff until you have to actually travel out somewhere and meet someone face to face, and you realize, it's a totally different strategy, and for a small business, I guess it's just interesting to, what do you think would happen? Say, kind of fast forward, and you're starting the business today. So think of that. No one's heard of heated towel racks. We moved to the States, and today you start the business. What do you think you would do differently?
Well, I mean, I think you've got to do role play. I mean, you've got to, I mean, you can make videos nowadays very cheaply. I mean, making a video 10, 15 years ago to depict a product was virtually impossible for us. I mean, the cost of producing this stuff has changed so much. And fortunately in Amba, we have a built-in marketing department which does all this stuff for us. So it's become far more affordable. But I think, the technology today and the access to all this information and the tools have changed dramatically. I mean, I think to get a product to market nowadays compared to what it was like before, definitely is different. And I mean, we see that now. I mean, in the last 2 or 3 years, the way we market the product has changed radically. I mean, everything's improved. I mean, not only that, I mean, if you remember that in the beginning, there were basically 2 of us, we had Fred trying to sell the product and me doing everything else. And now we have a team of people who have been with us for more than 10, 15 years. The fact that we've been around for that long. But I mean, everyone knows the product, they understand the product. And we have a fantastic team of individuals who work as a team. And that's what I always use the analogy of a soccer team. I mean, I love soccer. And we have a great team because, everyone is needed. Everyone plays their role. And I think that's the key to success. I mean, we've got that motivated team of people all working in the same direction. I mean, if you listen to people talking to customers on the phone or responding to, your chat box or whatever, I mean, I think it's exceptional. I mean, and then people have always commented about that. And I mean, I'm proud of the fact that we've got this team of young individuals, who I mean, they bring a lot to the table, and they're part of, and they I mean, it's a team effort at the end of the day. It's not just one person. Yeah.
Well, that's but it starts at the top, right? And you famously, not like anyone else on the team was desperate or excited about jumping up to volunteer for a video interview. But, it's pretty well known that you like to stay a little bit more behind the scenes. Definitely, don't want to be, the face of the company at all. Why is that? Do you feel like, you don't deserve some of the credit, or what's it just? I mean, I don't like being on camera either. I mean, that's why I chose to do photography from a young age, was that when you're behind the camera, there's less photos of you, because you're not in front of the camera. But so what's you don't like to take credit for your success?
Yeah. I think everyone has brought something to the party, and I think that, and I'd like them to feel, it's in this day and age where you've got all these people who are bombastic and shouting the odds and being out there. It's very awkward for me. I don't like it at all. I think that a lot of people get left behind because they're not in your face. It's just not my nature. I think my dad was the same. and that's the way I was brought up. You're not in people's faces. You have manners. You I'm trying to think of the word. It's it's such a pleasure to encourage other people to do well, and see how they how they so it's just for them to achieve something is an achievement for me. You know what I mean? It's nice to see. I mean, if I look at my team, I mean, we don't have a big team, but everyone is doing well. And if you see where we started out, I mean, I think it's and as I say, it's. I mean, look, obviously, it's my leadership style. I don't like being in somebody's face. I like people to get on with it. To be self-motivated. I'll try and motivate them, but I mean, they need to have it in them. And I don't like telling people what to do. I don't like being told what to do. So, and that's just the way I am. I like people to get on with it. And when they do well, kudos to them, and that's weird, but that's the way I am. Yeah.
Too bad, but okay. So if you had to go back 20 years, I mean, we know we talked about some of the challenges that you were facing. So if you had to give yourself 20 years ago, when you're just starting the company, and you could give yourself, like, you can basically say 2 sentences to yourself, what would you say if you could use those, 2 sentences?
About
You could say anything you want. It could be buy Bitcoin.
I mean, what are the things? Even with this product, not knowing where we're going, I've always felt that, with my background and having done a lot of stuff, I'm not a big risk taker. People would say, "Oh, you do this." I mean, I remember Dennis Panzer saying to me, "Why are you doing this Unitarics?" No, it's a waste of time. And I said, what have I got to lose? I mean, I'm confident that I can actually make it happen. I've done stuff. I mean, I think I'm confident. I mean, if you ask me what I would say to you looking back, I mean, I think coming to America compared to growing up in South Africa, there's so much opportunity here. And for me, I mean, there was no ways that I would fail. I mean, I knew that with the experience that I had, selling new products or bringing new products to market or coming up with new ideas, I knew that some way I'd make a success of it. I mean, I don't know what the extent of it would be, but I mean, I really felt comfortable that I wouldn't fail. And it's like, again, it's like not having to win all the time, but I think I would always do well enough to get by. You know what I mean? And I think that I've never been a greedy person. I'm always felt that I could share, the success. I mean, you think about it. We've had instances where people have really struggled, and maybe we've lost a little bit of money. At the end of the day, it wasn't the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's my attitude. I mean, I'm not greedy. I like to, I mean, some of my friends would probably say I'm a socialist or something like that, but it's not like it. I mean, I own the means of production. I'm a capitalist, but I like to share in the success of the company. If you look at where we are today, I mean, I've got and we've got young people. I'm trying to orchestrate that they move, that they succeed in the future. I mean, I think this company is going to grow from strength to strength. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I've been bumbling along here. I think that the people in the company now are far smarter than I ever was, and I think that it'll be interesting to sit back one day and say to myself, "Oh my God, look at these guys and these girls who are running this company, and it's now Fortune 500."
So you didn't answer my question though. What would you say to yourself? Again, advice, warning. Don't go see this movie.
What would I say to myself? I mean, I'm speechless, Peter. I mean, I don't know what I'd say to myself. I mean, I'm just so comfortable with what's happened, and I'm just so lucky to have, got where I am. I look at my dad arrived in South Africa, and his dad died like 2 years later, and he was stuck with a mother who couldn't speak a word of English, and he had to take care of her. I mean, I'm so much more fortunate. He educated me. He achieved success for himself, and I feel the same way. I mean, I honestly, as I say, I'm not a greedy person, and I think that we've done really well, and I'd like the rest, the team to actually do well going forward. I mean, I'm an old guy now. I
mean, you're in better shape than most people nowadays my age. So,
but you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm content. I'm content with where we are, and I'd be very happy to see the team go forward and succeed beyond my dreams, kind of thing. You know what I mean? That would be the best thing for me, to see you guys all succeed, and not just I mean, Peter, you're part of the team. I think your partners. I mean, it's so nice to see people communicate and not compete against each other, and work in the all work in the same direction, as opposed to creating obstacles for each other. Yeah.
You mentioned the Fortune 500. So is that where is that in 20 years' time? Is that where you see Amba?
Oh, I don't know about a Fortune 500 people.
No, I know that was. Where do you see in the next 20 years? Where do you see things going?
I mean, I think this is just the beginning. I think it's taken us too long, purely and mainly because I'm very conservative. I don't know if and some of the things you say to me, some of the things in the past. I mean, one of the things that I'll never forget is when in 2008, when everything hit the wall, with the financial crisis, we had an overdraft facility. It wasn't big. We had one, which we weren't using, which we had never used, but we had it just in case. And the banks pulled it. And I remember calling the bank and saying to him, what's the story? I mean, I'm not using this thing and you're pulling it. And I said, what would have happened if I had used it? I mean, you pushed me to the ground. And he said, yeah, well, that's how it works. So, that was a really good lesson for me. I mean, we never borrowed too much money. And in fact, we don't borrow much at all. But, as I say, I'm very conservative. I don't like to be, on the edge.
Well, when you say conservative, you mean conservative in your business tactics, not politically or anything like that.
No. I'm talking about purely conservative from a business point of view. I mean, I don't like to put myself at risk. I don't like to put my family at risk. I don't like to put my staff at risk. I want to make sure that, the business will survive. If there's a downturn, I think it's important. I mean, we have families who rely on us. So it's important to make sure that, they can survive. So, and as I said, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why it's taken us a bit longer to get where we are. I mean, this company's been cash flow positive now for 10, 15 years, which is a good thing. But I mean, we could have probably grown faster. But, with the ups and downs, I mean, if you look at things like COVID, I mean, COVID was huge. If you think of the prices of containers, we were importing stuff from China where the price went from $4,000 a container to $25,000 a container. We ended up paying that, and we were very lucky because we ended up taking the risk and paying that, we were able to sell so much more. And so we were able to...
We had inventory when a lot of people were struggling to get inventory because everything had shut down. Right.
But Peter, also, I mean, one thing we never did is we didn't put the prices up. We sucked it up. But we sucked it up, and fortunately we sold a whole lot more, so we didn't really suffer. But we could have. It could have been very different,
I mean, no one really knew what to expect in that time. And, to actually have come out not only surviving, but, having some of the best years revenue wise I think we've had in a while. So it was definitely.
And the other interesting thing was the bridge that went down to the factory. I mean, that was
right. So right after COVID, just some background for this. Right after COVID, and this is when was it? 2021, right?
Yeah.
We had in our business cul-de-sac leading to our warehouse, we have a bridge that is over a creek, and we had some storms that came in and actually washed the bridge away. So we were unable to get truck shipments directly to our warehouse, and we had to actually go through a process, and I'll maybe put in a video here to actually show exactly what we were dealing with. But we had to cross a bridge, or pardon me, a temporary bridge, which is a steel girder with boxes on our shoulders, across this little creek to the other side to deliver to UPS. So, it was, especially coming from COVID, working remote, and then coming back and then having to essentially shut down our main warehouse was quite a challenge. I don't think anyone really appreciated climbing up a mud hill every day to work on the other side of a creek. So, but that just for context.
And if you remember, Peter, I mean, I think they told us it would take anything up to 2 months to repair the bridge, and it ended up taking about 8 months. So, I mean,
right.
when we were out of there for 8 months, I mean, it was a huge issue. And that is a good example of, the team stepping up to the plate once again. I mean, no one complained. Everyone just stepped up. Everyone just worked harder. People, I mean, Mark, the distribution guy, was traveling to 2-3 different warehouses where we had put stuff in. I mean, it was just fantastic to see how the team stepped up. I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, it really, I can't emphasize how, with some of these issues, how the team is stepped up to the plate. I mean, it's great to see, and the fact that they've grown up. Most of the team have grown up in the company. I mean, I think what they've learned is, I mean, they probably learned some of it from me, but I mean, they've learned that this is where they basically learned all about business, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. So once again,
you talked a little bit about your personal philosophies, not being being more conservative business wise. Do you find that since starting 20 years ago, was it always, did you always feel that way, or do you feel like owning your own business and being your own boss and sort of going through that, do you feel that changed the way you looked at how you would run a business? Because you've worked in the business. I mean, you were a partner in a business before, so you weren't exactly a bottom level employee. You were pretty high level in that company. But obviously, moving to a company where you are the sole, the responsibility is on you for the success. So that if you do bad or you do good, there's no one else. It's on your shoulders. Do you find that your philosophy has changed since Amba, or have you always sort of said this is the way I am, this is the way I act, this is my motivation, as you mentioned, you want everyone else to share in your success. Was that something that you always had, or was that something that you found that came out of being the sole person in charge of the company in the beginning?
Peter, I mean, I think sometimes what one's motivated to obviously you're the only person who's going to actually make things happen in your life, right? I mean, you decide what which way you turn, which way you go. But at the end of it, you realize that in a business like this, I mean, it's easy to make mistakes. Okay, and if you're the sole owner and you make mistakes, it's your problem, right? And I think that having partners who are self-minded, with similar mindsets and stuff, with the same, who are not greedy, who with the same mentality, that you can work together and complement each other. So, for example, if there's something that I'm doing incorrectly, that you are comfortable in coming to me and saying, "Hey, Andrew, I wouldn't do it this way," kind of thing. And often in companies, and it's probably like that in government too, people are too scared to criticize the leaders, you know what I mean? And so, like in our company, I feel it's important that if I'm doing something wrong, that people should tell me about it, but then I should also actually do something about it. I shouldn't just ignore them. And that to me is crucial. And, I mean, if you look at how things have changed in business, like, your knowledge about computers and the internet so far exceed mine. I mean, there's no ways I know anything close to what you know about this stuff. And then, the same thing applies to some of the other areas that, it's important that you listen to other people and you try and understand where they're coming from. And I think that's why, I keep on talking about this team thing. Like I love soccer, and the soccer team, the captain of the soccer team is basically just the guy who keeps the team happy, right? But I mean, he's not their boss or anything like that, right? And they all bring something to the party. I mean, you're the guy in the goals, the guy at the back, but I mean, they all serve a purpose, and it's all part of a whole, and you need them all. And that's how I feel about like this company now. I think, we're going to grow, but everyone has his turf. And if it goes wrong, you're going to help him. You're not going to just criticize him. You're going to help him. And so, people make mistakes. And sometimes the mistakes are worse than others. But it is what it is. You don't rub the guy's nose in the mistake. You basically... you work with the guy, you help the guy, and so on and so forth. I mean, I honestly, I'm very excited about the prospects of Amba. I mean, I just think that we've got smart people. We've got we've got people from all over the place. It's awesome. I love it. I mean, if the world could be like Amba, you asked me for a comment. If the world could be like Amba.
Also, and to circle back, because you still haven't given me a question, what would you say to yourself 20 years ago? You came up, you said, this is a problem, or I'm having a problem. I know of this problem because I have this experience that, I mean, you can call it a cultural difference if you want to, but, there's difference in cultures in South Africa, the way they build houses, whatever. So you have this experience that no one fundamentally has here. And you move to a new country and you say, none of you guys understand what this is, but I'm going to show you that it's going to be important. And I mean, that it obviously has resonated because we're still here.
If you consider what you've discovered since we started doing this, I mean, we've talked about, the importance, we're trying to prove to people that it's just not a luxury, and it's just not, it's nice to have a dry towel. But I mean, now we're discovering that, we've had tests done. Now we have, you talk about germs on the towel, and it's now a health thing. I mean, I honestly didn't even think about that when we started out. I mean, it didn't even enter my head. All I was thinking of was, is a dry towel. We don't have to wash the towels all the time. We're talking about water, saving water. I mean, in places like California, they run out of water. I mean, you've just done a study showing, towel usage and what it means, and how, we can quantify those things.
Right.
These are recent things that we're doing, and I mean,
So what he's referring to here is we did a study of 3,000 people about their towel usage, and I mean, one of the things that was really, I mean, I know I spoke with Harris, our general manager, on the results, and one thing that he was very surprised with, he did not realize that so many people use 2 towels when they shower. They each use 2 towels. And I mean, in fact, I fall under that. We have a nice Model D Jeeves towel rack at home, so we have space for more towels. So we end up putting towels on there anyway, just to have an extra one, for whatever. And so I end up using 2 towels. But, there's that many people that are using it now who probably don't have a heated towel rack. So, what are those people that use 2 towels? Their life would probably change dramatically if suddenly, they have a heated towel rack. I use my 2 towels every day, and they're always, it's double the wet towel. And I have to launder them, double the laundry every time I do my towel washing. But now it's a totally different story now with the length between each wash.
So that's why I'm saying, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I think the opportunity now is so much more, it's so much greater than it was when we started out. I mean, firstly, people didn't know what we were talking about. Now they know what we're talking about, but now we discovered that you have these additional advantages of using a Tarex, which we didn't have before. So, I mean, it's, maybe.
Well, they were always there, but we didn't really realize it was something that we could present as a benefit and say, hey,
exactly. And I mean,
not only that,
but also, I mean, people, it'll add to the health of the public. I mean, it's like it's a health thing, it's not just, I mean, I think it's important. And as I say, conservation of water, energy conservation, I think these things going forward are going to be important. I mean, we know they're important. I mean, people are talking about it all the time now. We say didn't before, they didn't care. But I mean, people are becoming aware of these things. So, at least we're playing our role. And I mean,
yeah. And I mean, to me, it's very, I mean, this may be a little bit of a dramatic example, but, after COVID now, we have these kind of like hand sanitizing stations everywhere. And it's not something that we even, no one really thought, oh, I'm going around, I'm opening doors, I'm going to the grocery store, pushing a cart. And, now that situation, now everyone's acutely aware of this stuff. And now we have hand sanitizing stations. And I know at Publix, at my local Publix, they have disinfecting wipes by the carts. And I saw someone did a video where they actually went in and they swabbed the thing and did a bacterial study, before and after wiping. A totally different story. And it's not something that, it's not something that you think about. And then, I mean, I know myself, besides getting COVID, after my honeymoon, well after the end of COVID and being vaccinated. But I mean, during COVID, I don't think I ever got sick at all because everyone was, it was not something that had occurred to us was, hey, we need to be sanitizing. So we did it. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm not getting sick anymore. It's the same with that. It's like, you have a towel rack and you're like, wow, I just remembered I haven't washed my towel in 3 weeks and it hasn't even fazed me because it doesn't smell. It doesn't, it's not gross or damp or anything like that. So, it just changes. But anyway, I think you did really well in this. You were freaking out a little bit right before the scheduled time for this meeting or this interview. Just got to relax. And I mean, you've built something amazing here. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be able to say, I mean, I know you don't like to take credit, but I mean, it was you and your efforts that did this. And I know a lot of people don't. There's a lot of stuff going on and not a lot of people take the time to think back and think about 20 years ago of you working with Fred Salati in close quarters in the guest room, which eventually became my college bedroom. Thank you very much. So, I lived in the piece of history there as well, but, you've done a good job. I think, again, I don't think enough people say it. You deserve kudos. You built something great that will have I think, last in the future, hopefully. I think a couple of us are staking our futures on it as well. So hope, fingers crossed, knock on wood. But, thank you for your dedication. I think, it's important to look back and see that this great business that you've built, it was built on the foundation that you built and your philosophies and stuff carried through to the team. And, that's, you need to be, you should be proud of yourself and give yourself kudos and a pat on the back every now and then. And,
Peter, it's really kind of you say that. I mean, I must say, I mean, it's coming from you. Yeah, I mean, I'm very touched. It's very, very kind of you. And I mean, I'm not sure about this interview business, but it is what it is.
Like my new side gig, I'm going to start becoming an interviewer. The philosophies of teamwork and, not being greedy and reinvesting in the company and the people that make the company work, that stuff is timeless, really. I would think it applies 20 years ago, it applies today. So, but thank you.